What's up? It's Life of the Aggie with CDK on the mic, the first ever #1 ranked HBCU host from Raleigh, North Carolina, 102 Jams radio personality, DTLR radio personality, Charlotte Hornets arena host, Greensboro Swarm arena host, Soulja Boy official host, tour host. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I do, all in a nutshell. And once again, this is Life of Aggie with CDK on the mic. So I started off in the church. My real name is Christian, right? And Christian Daniel, which comes straight from the Bible. My mom picked that name for me for multiple reasons. And I always was the master of ceremonies for or what they call presiding in church, in the pulpit for Children's Sundays. And then even for Men's Day, I would do speeches and things like that. And I even did, not an initial sermon or anything like that, but when I was 10, I did maybe a 5 to 7 minute inspirational message is what they would call it. And then when I graduated, I did the same thing in high school before I came to A&T. So the children's choir and just directing the choir, from that to being a master of ceremony of all of our children's Sundays, is kind of what gave me my first voice. And then from there, I started doing plays and musicals. Now I couldn't sing at all or dance, so I used to get the terrible roles. And they also made me the pre-show host for that reason. It was you got so much energy and you're so charismatic, but you can't sing or dance, so we can't give you these big roles. So they found a place for me there. And then from there, I did a little bit of acting and modeling before I became an actual host in college. A&T shaped who I was because I went to a 90% black high school in middle school. My middle school is very diverse, but my elementary school is 90% black as well, back there in Raleigh. So I wouldn't say we had the intro of how historically black college would be, because my band director went to A&T, which is the reason why I came here. I originally came to school for music education. I was going to be a band director. So I marched at A&T my freshman year, and I quickly realized that was not for me. Actually, I realized that in high school. My senior year in high school, I realized I was not as elite player as all my other colleagues and stuff like that. So I had to find me another way. I knew I could talk, but playing my instrument, it was cool. And my band director going to A&T, he introduced me to that light. And A.G.G.I.E 2016, I think, was my junior year in high school, and we drove up to Durham, and they were playing A&T, of course. And me and 6 of my friends that were also graduating the next year, one of them, their parents went to A&T, and we had all pulled up, and we had got our first introduction to HBCU life. Well, at least me. So then when I came to A&T, I was kind of used to being around people that looked like me that were also successful, but I feel like A&T had shaped me of amplifying the voice that I already had, and really gave me a chance to dive into me. Because in college, you can really be who you are, and people aren't gonna judge you or sway you to be a certain way. There's nothing that's necessarily cool. You kind of click in and find in with people that do the same things that you do. So it kind of gave me the platform to be able to jump into my calling, as I would like to say.
What did you major in?
Mass communication. I was multimedia, mass media, one of the two. I don't know. Whichever one was writing at first, I had to get up out of that. Real quick. So then I then I think multimedia, and then I was on camera for a little bit, and yeah. So what was crazy was I had the radio class. If you do multimedia, I think you had to take intro to radio. But by that time, I was already on at 102 Jams. So I used to be in class bro, y'all are teaching me things that I have a job for already, right? And I used to I used to skip class, but I used to for sure be upset a little bit, because I'm bro, I had to take off work that I'm already hired at the radio station to go to class to do things that I learned during my internship over the summer. So that's what I majored in when I went to T. The first one was being the first ever #1 HBCU host. Now the #1 HBCU host is Mikey, so the fact that we could pass that on to another Aggie is amazing. So shout out to him. But back in 2020, over the pandemic, I lost everything. I lost my job in radio. Everybody got laid off, right? So I got laid off March 20th, 2020. March 20th, 2020, or 26. One of them days, I remember it though, because I got the call, and I was actually at an event for the station, and he called me and let me know. He was like, "Oh, you can go home." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So then I got home, and he called me back and was like, "Yeah, we gotta let everybody go." So I'm crying. I'm like, "Dang, this is crazy," because at the time, that's all I really had for real. So when they made that poll, HBCU Buzz made the poll maybe a day later, and I was like, "This is what I need right here to propel my career to the next level," because I was already doing events at Bennett. The Bennett Gym Jam is kind of what put me on the face of the map. I was doing events at John C. Smith, places in Alabama, some of these HBCUs up and down the East Coast. but I didn't have that extra oomph to put me on. So once I got that title, won the title, it gave me that validation that others didn't, that others needed from me, honestly. That and then Nick Cannon paying my tuition in full was another really big accomplishment, I would say. And I think recently being the youngest host in the NBA is also a great accomplishment while I was also in school. So that was an amazing thing as well. I think those are and executive producing my own concert recently within the last week. So successfully doing that and having over 10,000 people in attendance, and we're all under 25 is crazy. So I used to work at McDonald's, right? So I worked at McDonald's my senior year in high school, and you know how everybody, man, you try to save your money before you go to college. Spent all that. So I spent all that, and the money I saved up from McDonald's, it was a story. I used to get like $100 a month from my mom my freshman year in college. Now y'all know this like $3 a day. Be for real. Like that don't, you know what I'm saying? That just don't make no sense. So that's kind of how I got into hosting, because I needed some side money. But Nick Cannon's producer basically saw a story that Cricket Wireless wrote about me, about this whole working at McDonald's, but using that platform to make my whole hosting thing. Like the money I invested into like my mic and my logo and all of that, that's what I spent my money on. So his producer saw the video, the article that Cricket Wireless and Watch the Yard had written about me. So they reached out to me and they let me know I was gonna come on the show. It was, I mean, they might have reached out like September 3rd, and then the show was like September 26th or something like that. Was when the episode aired. Now, mind you, when we went on the episode, we had no idea that our tuition was gonna get paid. And that was the first time I went up there. So I wasn't able to make it in person that time because it was still during the pandemic, so they had regulations and things like that. So I had went to advertisement week, which y'all Watch the Yard put me on in October, and I popped up on Nick Cannon just to say thank you. So I let the producers know I was coming to a show, and they ripped me in the episode like on the spot. And he came, shouted me out, and did a recap of like how I was doing and everything like that. And the tuition being paid off was cool, especially for my mom, because my brother was also in school at the same time. He went to Winston-Salem, which he's about to graduate. But when they wrote me an episode, and the fact that he put me on as he saw me and put me on as a media personality and gave me that spotlight, that's what really meant a lot to me, because my corporate bookings from that point on had went up, and it was another form of validation. Up until 2023, I started hosting in 2017. I didn't have a team. It was just me, Dolo, and that was more of a control thing. It was more of a thing like, I know how your baby is. Like, you feel like your project, your brand, your clothing line, whatever you have is your baby. So I felt like at the time, I didn't want to give any of that up. I wanted to make sure I had control, hands-on everything. I wanted to be in the know about everything. So once I got to this level of like, after I started doing the NBA and stuff like that, I realized in order for me to grow, I had to have people on my team that have access to things that I do not. So Google Calendar is one of the things that I do. I kind of color code my things from like radio, if it's virtual, if it's meetings and all of that, even down to like simple things to get my haircut. Like all of these things are planned out, because you realize you have a lot more time in your day than you think you do when you start mapping things out and do it in blocks, right? So from there, I have an agent, I have a booking manager, I have a road manager, and I also have a publicist. So at this point, I'm getting to the point where I just show up. I just show up, and everything else is pretty much taken care of. Like even at the concert, by that time I had already did the running show and everything like that, and then I just had my agent had sent an assistant for the day, and she just kind of made sure everything was running smoothly, and I could just focus on hosting. So that makes me able to do so many other things and get booked more often. Leadership, back to this executive role, executive producer role as far as the concert. So I was over the head of entertainment with DJ Glove, and like leadership as far as working with other entertainers. A lot of the times you'll deal with a lot of egos in entertainment, right? Egos is something that egos can be your biggest downfall. I always say once you start acting like the person that you are, you'll fall off. In a sense of like, you haven't arrived yet. That's always my mindset. I haven't arrived yet. I haven't arrived yet. No matter how big or how great, there's always somebody out there that's done way more than I have, right? So in a leadership role, take an example of always being on time. When it comes to entertainment, if I'm on an event, most of the time I'm the first entertainer there, even though I'm probably going to be the last one to leave as far as closing the event. I'm always thinking outside the box on how to navigate when we're in the room. Also, prepare myself. Show prep is always one thing that we say. I work with Six Stars Entertainment, and one thing we always live by is proper preparation prevents poor performance, and that's tongue twister, but it's something that we live by all the time, making sure that we have everything in place to make sure that we are selling in the ways that we are. The first thing is to just get started. Don't overthink it. Like really just jumping in there is the best thing that I could have done. And availability is the best ability. I feel like being able to just kind of have your hands in everything and try everything. I say this all the time. College is your last safety net. Like you have bills. Most people don't have that many bills. You have a meal plan. Like you're pretty much taken care of. So any money that you make on the side, I say invest that into whatever that you are passionate about. Try it now, because once you get in the real world, as we like to say, which college is still the real world, you'll have a lot more responsibilities and most of the time less opportunities to take these risks that you're doing. So I will say, from the time that you're a freshman to the time that you're a senior, everything needs to be trial and error every single day. Like if you don't like something, it's cool. If you don't think you like it, still try it, because you never know what'll stick or what you'll be good at that can help you make money to invest in other things that you really do want to do. Do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. That's the advice that I would give. What keeps me going every day is, for one, being a first generation college student, being able to put the legacy on my brother, my little cousin, of going to an HBCU. And I saw, just like me and my brother are 3 years apart. So for him to come and go to Winston-Salem State and have his own journey and be the head captain of like the cheerleading squad and stuff like that. And I know they like one of the best cheerleading teams in the nation and whatnot. To see him flourish in his own lane and really like lean into what it is for himself. And even like me writing my book, like when I wrote my book, and having kids kind of come up to me and just talk about how I've encouraged their kids to go to college and stuff like that, when parents be talking to me as well, being able to come back to my high school and give out scholarships due to me having this book, is kind of what keeps me going every day. Realizing when I see people in Food Lion, McDonald's, Walmart, whatever the case may be, people coming up to me and telling me like, yo, I remember back in like 2014, not 20, I'm not that old, 2019, I remember when you was I remember when you was hosting the Step Show on campus. And I remember from there, you're going from there to now you're at the NBA games, and I'm seeing you at both places, and just seeing the elevation. It keeps me drived. Upcoming things, I definitely have more concerts on the way. Right now I'm on tour of Soulja Boy, as I said before. NBA season is right around the corner, and we have a lot of great things coming up for the spring, not only in the Carolinas, but like all over. I have a huge event coming up at the end of this month with a super A-list artist. Be on the lookout for that, for sure. Hey.